Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjanaya Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravija Acharya Story Shishimata Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravija Acharya Story Shishimata Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Anandikoti Vaishnavrind Ki Nam Acharya Slaridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivrind Ki Sisi Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Navadip Dham Ki Ganga Maya Jamuna Maya Ki Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Ki Samaveta Bhaktivrind Ki Nitaya Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Hare Krishna. Is it audible? Is it audible? So today we're doing the 4th canto, 9th chapter, text number 22 and 23. We will responsively do 23. So I'll just read 22. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'm reading text number 22. Prastite tu vanam pitra datvagam dharma samshraya satrim sadvalsa sahasram rakshit avyatindriya. The translation. After your father goes to the forest and awards you the rule of his kingdom, you will rule continuously the entire world for 36,000 years. And all your senses will continue to be as strong as they are now. You will never become old. So text 23, we'll just do Tvat Your Bratri Brother Uttame Uttama Naste being killed Mrigayayam in hunting. 2. Then Tatmana being too afflicted. Anvisanti while searching out. Vanam, in the forest. Mata, the mother. Davagnim, in the forest. Sa, she. Praviksyati, will enter. Sorry, I just did it like that. Twadbratri utamanaste. Twadbratri utamanaste. Migayayam tu tanmana. Migayayam tu tanmana. Anvisanti vanamata. Anvisanti vanamata. Davagnim sa praviksyati. Twadbratri uttamanaste. Mrigayayam tu tanmana. Anvisanti vanamata. Davagnim sa praviksyati. Twadbratri uttamanaste. Migayayam tu tanmanaha. Anvisanti vanamata. Davagnim sa praviksyati. Twadbratri uttamanaste. Mrigyayayam tu tanmanaha. Anvisanti vanamata. Dvagnim sva praviksyati. Twadbratri uttamanaste. Mrigayayam tu tanmanaha. Anvisanti vanamata. Dvagnim sa praviksyati. Twadbratri uttamanaste. Mrigayayam tu tanmanaha. Anvisanti vanamata. Davagnim sa praviksyate. Twadbratri uttamanaste. Mrigayayam tu tanmanaha. Mata. Davagnim sa praviksyati. Translation. The Lord continued, sometime in the future your brother Uttama will go hunting in the forest, and while absorbed in hunting he will be killed. Your stepmother Surichi, being maddened upon the death of her son, will go to search him out in the forest, but she will be devoured by a forest fire. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Dhruva Maharaj came to the forest to search out the Supreme Personality of Godhead with a revenging spirit against his stepmother. His stepmother had insulted Dhruva, who was not an ordinary person, but a great Vaishnava. An offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava is the greatest offense in this world. Because having insulted Dhruva, Surichi would become mad upon the death of her son and would enter a forest fire, and thus her life would be ended. This was specifically mentioned by the Lord to Dhruva because he was determined for revenge against her. From this we should take the lesson that we should never try to insult a Vaishnava. Not only should we not insult a Vaishnava, but we should not insult anyone unnecessarily. When Suruchi insulted Dhruva, he was just a child. She, of course, did not know that Dhruva was a great, recognized Vaishnava, and so offense was committed unknowingly. When one serves a Vaishnava unknowingly, one still gets the good result. And if one unknowingly insults a Vaishnava, one suffers the bad result. A Vaishnava is especially favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pleasing him or displeasing him directly affects the pleasure and displeasure of the Supreme Lord. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his 8 stanzas of the prayer to the spiritual master, has sung, Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasadam. By pleasing the spiritual master, who is a pure Vaishnava, one pleases the personality of Godhead. But if one displeases the spiritual master, one does not know where he is going. This is quite an interesting verse. This is Lord Krishna saying to Dhruva, and I'll read it again. The Lord continued, sometime in the future your brother Uttama will go hunting in the forest, and while absorbed in hunting he will be killed. Your stepmother Suruchi, being maddened upon the death of her son, will go to search him out in the forest, but she will be devoured by a forest fire. There's many things we can speak about this topic. It's such a vast topic. So if you have any questions, you can raise it as we speak, and we could try to address them. I thought of firstly speaking about how the spiritual master is an emissary of Krishna, or a representative of Krishna. And one must never become envious of the spiritual master. In the Nectar of Devotion, it is explained that one may not envy the spiritual master as he would to an ordinary man. The spiritual master is like the ambassador. And the ambassador, when you go to the embassy, it's like that embassy is that country within a country. For example, if you go to the embassy of the United States in South Africa, it's like you're going to United States. So the ambassador is the representative, and an insult to the ambassador is an insult to the president. So this is how Prabhupada explained it in one of his lectures here. So, to offend the ambassador, to offend the spiritual master, is a great offense. It's seriously a great offense, and Krishna, doesn't really forgive the person who commits such an offense. So one has to be very, very careful, because even in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is explained that the person who explains the glories of Krishna is very dear to him. So if you offend somebody who is dear to Krishna, it's dangerous. It's like, it's like when parents, they have children, you can harm the parent and he may be able to tolerate it. But when you harm his child, he cannot tolerate that. Isn't it? It's very true. So therefore, to blaspheme the pure devotee, that's not very good. But how does this blasphemy all come about? There's many points we can talk about. Respect, but don't associate. So with blasphemous people, we have to be very careful that we respect them. And if they are also practicing Vaishnavism, but they have not good character. You can respect them, but you shouldn't associate with them. It's even within a society, it's like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is how it's explained by Prabhupada in a letter given in 1970, sent to Jayapatak Maharaj. So, how to correct neophyte devotees? The best thing as members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is that we should immediately ourselves set the standard and qualification. Because we have to set the example and behavior and try to reform others, not by criticizing them, but by our behavior. Because often we get into the critical mood and we start criticizing, but our behavior may not be up to standard. So we have to be very cautious in how we're dealing with devotees and dealing with superiors. We find from this purport that we read that what the reaction is going to be for the son will die and the mother will enter the forest in the fire, and she will be finished because of the offense they had committed to Dhruva. So when dealing with superior Vaishnavas, they are empowered, especially if you're talking about the spiritual master, he's an empowered Vaishnava, and he is not subjected to disciplinary action. Let's be careful about that, And it is also offense to give advice and direct. So one can distinguish between a neophyte and an advanced devotee, as Prabhupada writes in the 6th verse on the purport of the 6th verse of the Nectar of Instruction. And the spiritual master is not obliged to take instructions from the disciple or from others who are not his disciples. So all these etiquettes, the etiquette is really the ornament of a devotee. It's not like just giving like high-fluted classes and sitting on the Vyasasana and speaking all type of philosophy. But the real ornament is their behavior. Most people will take to spiritual life because of your behavior. Because we're preaching philosophy to so many people. But some people may be convinced by the philosophy, but what they're really looking is at our behavior. So we have to be careful that we don't commit offenses. One of the greatest offense that we can also read in the Bhagavatam is in the 5th canto, when Jad Bharat, when he was being carried, when the King Raghunath was being carried in the palanquin, was not happy in the way he was being carried, and he got upset. But he was tolerant. The Jad Bharat was tolerant. Because he's a Vaishnava, he was a devotee. He could tolerate the pain. You see, when you release something from your tongue, it's very difficult to pull it back. Now remember, we have, you heard of what is a Brahmastra? A Brahmastra is mantras that if I want to kill Segi, I can just send it directly to Segi. So, the mantra will go there and he'll go back to Godhead. But as it's going, I can also withdraw it, if I know the signs to withdraw it. So that it's possible. But that science is not known to many people. Therefore, our senses have to be controlled. In the same way, when we release it, we cannot withdraw it. Got it? So one has to be careful what he say other devotees or find faults. And the results of Vaishnava Aparad, there's so much to say about it. What do you think of this topic? It's something that we experience every day. But how Vaishnava Aparad actually comes It comes from associating with non-devotees. Because you see what happens when you associate with them, you develop their qualities. Because Lord Chaitanya said, Asat Sangha Tyaga, E Vaishnavachar. We must give up the association of non-devotees. So the more you associate with non-devotees, we will imbibe their qualities. Because that's where that creeper gets destroyed. Because how you're going to protect that creeper is when you stop associating with materialistic people or non-devotees. It's a broad topic. You're working with people. I mean, still you have to be careful, because that gives you the impetus to offend the Vaishnava. Because what happens, you see sometimes, even in your work environment, you would say, the people behave so nicely at my work, but when I go to the temple, I see them not behaving so nicely. Isn't it? You think about it. This is how it is. So we have to be careful about that. So even, Prabhupada writes in the Madhya Leela of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, even if one thing there are many pseudo-devotees and non-devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement, even if you think it's like that, still one should stick to the society. If one thinks that the society members are not pure devotees, one can keep direct contact with the spiritual master, and if there's any doubt, one should consult the spiritual master. So that connection is still there. You may not be happy with the association you get here sometimes, but this is what Prabhupada writes in the purport to the Madhya Leela. So we can still be in touch with the spiritual master. There is, the thing is, when we fault finding, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions, that we have to become more introspective and see whether what we're talking, whether what we're saying, whether it's in us also. It seems more like the case that it's more in us than the other person. But sometimes, it's also true that people's behavior is not good. Last night I realized we were giving a class this morning, so last night I was jotting some points on from a book called Narottam Vilas. And in this book, it talks about a very advanced devotee called Krishna Priya Thakurani. She's coming in a chain of very exalted spiritual masters, and she happened to worship the deity of Raghunath Das, the Govardhan Shila. So she was quite an advanced devotee, but she came for a Bhagavatam class, like how you come. So she was attending a Bhagavatam class, and the person who was speaking was quite an exalted person, was on a very high level of prema. Or at least that's what the book says. Is very, very on a high level. So he welcomed her, and the people welcomed her. The devotees welcomed her. But she noticed that the speaker showed no respect to her. This is also important, because the speaker, although he's the speaker, but he must also appreciate the audience or the devotees that are hearing the philosophy. They're also devotees, because sometimes the person in the audience can have a greater realization than the speaker. Got it? So therefore, you have to be careful, or even within the audience there may be seated many advanced devotees. And she sat very jubilantly to listen to the Krishna Katha. So, when we recite the verses as we recite, and then the Bhagavatam, like we were reciting earlier on. So whilst he was reciting, the speaker, Rup Kaviraj, was reciting, she was chanting. She was chanting, and then he got very upset. And he said, how is it possible that you can recite and chant at the same time? How could you do two things at the same time? So for her, she replied, it's simply habit. And the tongue is like accustomed to chant. Sisi Radha Raghunath ki, Shri Giri Govardhan ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. So her tongue was accustomed to chanting and the holy names. So she could do both things simultaneously. She could hear what the person is speaking, and she could chant at the same time. And there are people like that. That can do two things at the same time. I was in Vrindavan some years back, and one person raised a question like that to Giriraj Swami, who was giving the talk. And I noticed one person on the side was chanting while the Maharaj was talking. So I think the devotee who raised the question, see, they have what you call a 24-hour kirtan in Vrindavan, and people are meant to chant, 24 hours. But a little maybe the person was advanced, maybe he could do both things at the same time. And Giriraj Maharaj was very sharp, he answered it very well. He said, if it's possible, some yogis can do that also. They can do both things at the same time. So if you have that potency ability to do that, then you can do that. But also at the same time, when you're doing that, you cannot be disturbing other people. Isn't it? So like this, she could do both things. But he became very angry. He was furious. And he became, he got really upset. So when one gets upset or angry or envious of a more advanced person, then gradually there's like a kind of progression how he falls down, and he begin to become hateful to the Guru, to the deity, to the Vaishnavas in general. And then what happens? He's robbed of that ecstatic love. That starts diminishing. And as it diminishes, then he commits more offenses. Like that. And then you fall further, is that you start concocting your own philosophy. It's a very gradual process. And you'll find that somebody is offensive, the luster from his body is faded. The fire of digestion decreases. This is what happens. So like this, Rup Kaviraj, then he got afflicted. Anyway, he tried to return to his Guru's ashram again, but they already had, a word had gone around. You know how a word goes around. It was, he actually rejected his spiritual master, and that spread. And finally, he suffered from leprosy, but finally he became a ghost. He died. He left his body. But then he began to seize and haunt other persons who offended Vaishnavas. This is what he did. So how is it possible for somebody of that stature to be on the highest level to come down to the lowest level, to offense? We gave, we spoke earlier on that we have to be careful about offenses and association. And I was looking at, in that book, when they quoted the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which says, and I'll read it, by committing a small, seemingly insignificant offense unto a devotee of the Lord, even the topmost devotee who possesses the highest standard of transcendental love falls down from prema, from that prema, falls down from pure love of God. So somebody even on that level can come down. So one has to be extremely cautious. But when I looked for that verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, I didn't find it. And I looked into other books and I couldn't find it. But that probably quoted from another translation of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But on the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, if one insults a great devotee, that even if they are as powerful as Lord Shiva, they will fall down. So that's like the confirmation. So so we have to be cautious that we don't offend. Sometimes we may read in the scriptures that, anybody has any questions so far? You like to ask? You can use the mic. You have a mic? Because I can incorporate it, as what I want to say.
Hare Krishna. I was just thinking, sometimes because of our anarthas, we may not even be aware of the offenses. Sometimes because of our anarthas, we may not even be aware of the offenses that we are committing. So in that circumstance, what do we do?
Yes, sometimes, like anarthas, we may not be aware of the offenses that we are committing. See, the thing is, there's you don't get away from it. If you're committing an offense, you'll get the reaction anyway. And the reaction, you'll find that you'll lose the taste for chanting and association of devotees. But unwanted weeds has to be pulled out. And how that is removed, it's by association of more advanced devotees, pure devotees. Like even if one have anarthas, and we all do, have unwanted weeds, and we're not aware of it. It's mentioned here, just like it's mentioned in the purport. What we read, it said, you get the good result in the association of a pure devotee, you will get the good result. Even unknowingly. So unknowingly, you will also get the bad reactions in the purport. That if you offend, you will still get, but how do you overcome that? It's by the association of pure devotees. And the example given, like the mad elephant, like the elephant enters a garden and it will destroy the garden. So you need a fence, according to the scripture. So what is that fence? That fence is the fence of the pure devotees. So even if you have anarthas, but if you're within that fence, you're protected. That's how it works. Makes sense? So so it's like that. Is it okay? So, but you still gradually have to take it out. But even if you don't, even if the person doesn't know, because you associate with another devotee, he'll point it out. He'll say, hey, Prabhu, you're doing like this. Hey, Prabhu, you're doing like that. Then you get upset with the Prabhu. But if he points it out, then we should accept it, and that's how you become free from that unwanted desire. And there's so many things we have. We all know our own heart. We're not going to tell everybody. We know what's going on inside. It's like, I remember once one devotee was here. She's a pujari. She said, you must not talk to so and so person. I don't know. It was a female, but I was just helping that female. and she said, you should not talk to that person. I went to that person and told him, this is what the devotee said, and I'm going to follow that devotee, what she said. Yeah. So it's like that, because she may have seen something and that which I didn't see, and she pointed it out. So I just told the person, this is what the devotee said, and this is what we have to do. So we have to be alert, and if somebody is correcting, that is how you take it in good spirit. Because this, offenses are very subtle. Can be very, very subtle, and how you, like there was, the other one was about, you're familiar with that, the way Rupa Goswami was meditating, he was in rapt meditation. And that rapt meditation, he was in Krishna's pastime, and the gopis were addressing Srimati Radharani. It's very nicely described in the Bhakti Ratnaka, more detailed. And then, Radharani was there, but Krishna was also there. And the gopis were braiding her hair, and when they placed a mirror before her to see, how she's looking, then she saw Krishna's face. He was also there. So she became very shy. So she began covering herself up, and the gopis, they started laughing. And as they were laughing, when Rupa Goswami laughed, there was a person, a Vaishnava, was passing by. Some say his name was Krishnadas, but anyway, anyway, this, and the person thought, well, actually, why is he laughing at me? So in that, Rupa Goswami was affected, but then the person went to Sanatana Goswami, who was the elder brother, and the elder brother said he didn't laugh at you, he was actually in the pastime, and he's experiencing this pastime. So then, the person felt very bad, remorseful. But during that period, the meditation broke of Rupa Goswami. So he lost that vision. But then later there was, it was reconciled. The person begged for forgiveness. That the lame man, that he misunderstood the whole situation. So sometimes there may be misunderstanding also, and that is also there, misunderstanding. But this pastime, is being said, or Rupa Goswami went to this pastime to show how subtle it is. That even if the person you are not offending but feels offended, can break your meditation. So therefore, as a devotee, you should behave in such a way that the other person don't feel offended. So in an interesting way, yeah. When I was thinking about this pastime, I heard it a long time ago. But when I first heard it, I was really struck by how subtle it can be. Now, let me give you an example. Once the man was actually a physically challenged man. He was a lame-legged devotee. That man who felt that Rupa Goswami laughed at him. Some years, many years ago, maybe some decades ago, there was a person who was also a mentally challenged person should come to the temple. So the devotees were laughing about something. And this person thought they were laughing at him. You know what he did? He called his father, and your father came with a mood to hit the devotees. So one has to, in public, one has to be very careful, because you can create, cause an offense unknowingly. So we have to be cautious about that. Okay. Any comments from that? A little, yeah. So though, there's so many dangers in offending. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives so many, he speaks so much about offenses. But one thing that I found was that, there must be some good intention to criticize. Like, there must be some good intentions. Like, for example, the scriptures do not forbid one from discussing others' faults. But if one has good intentions, and those good intentions is of two kinds, and I'll read it. If some auspiciousness comes to a person by discussing their sin, then it is good to do so. If the result is beneficial for the world, one may speak about sinners and their activities. Such an act is considered pious. So you cannot say, we don't have to talk about it. We can talk about it if there's lessons to learn and it'll benefit. Like Prabhupada criticized his God brothers, and he's doing it rightfully. So if you criticize Prabhupada for criticizing his God brothers, that constitutes an offense. So we have to be careful about that. There's just so much to say. Anybody has any other questions? I wanted to talk a little bit more on different examples and how. There's a difference between sin and offense. Like a sin, a pap and aparad, there's a difference. A sin is like sinful activities. People may commit sinful activities, life after life, but it's like thin layers of dust. And by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, those dust can go away. But when you commit an aparad, that is difficult, an offense to a devotee. That is like thick layer. You cannot get rid of it so easily. So if you commit an offense to a Vaishnava, just like the example of Ajamil, he was sinful, but not offensive. Get it? He was sinful. So he engaged in sin. Therefore, when he chanted the Hare Krishna mantra on the level of Namabhas, he was able to advance spiritually and then later get liberation. That example is there. So one, there's a difference. And Jiva Goswami says that if a thorn has pierced your body on the heel, so you need another thorn to get out, So you can't, you don't expect it to come out of your shoulder. So the point that he was driving is, let's say for example you have offended a Vaishnava, and you committed an offense to the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Only that Vaishnava can forgive you. So anger, to get, like we get angry sometimes. But anger is, how do you overcome anger? How do you overcome it? Your lust causes anger, but how do you overcome it? You know how? By forgiveness. That's how you overcome anger. If you're not forgiving, you can't overcome it. It's an interesting way how to overcome it. So that's anger. But we have to work at it, and it's work in progress. And there's discussion of like sometimes we have this idea that Jai and Vijay offended the Kumaras. This is like a deliberate offense of action, and this is in the category of love, because it is prompted for the purpose of the Lord. So must be careful that we don't use that example as an offense. Well, you'll know the pastime from Jai and Vijay. And this is what had been said there. It said, "My dear Lord Narayan, O Master of the demigods, we have reasons to believe you desire to fight, but we do not see anyone fit to engage in your combat. Although we are strong, we are not inimical to you. Therefore, somehow you must arrange a situation whereby we become your opponents, and you can satisfy your chivalrous mood by fighting with us. We cannot tolerate to see you even slightly deprived of anything, since you are eternally the complete whole, fully self-satisfied. We are humble servants. Therefore, as you are Bhakta Vatsala, kindly grant our prayers, even if we fall far short of your expectations of the level of devotional qualities." So this is prompted by love. It's not an offense. So you have to remember that. Okay? Yeah, so then, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, stressed a lot about, protection from offenses to the Vaishnava. There's so much information. Your progress be checked. Just like, and he gives the example of Durvasa Muni, who committed an aparad, and for 1 full year he had to travel the whole of the universe, even to Vaikuntha, to defend himself for the offense. But he couldn't really do so, because he had committed the offense to the Vaishnava. He had to go back to the Vaishnava. So like Guru Avagya, committing offense to advanced devotees, Sadhu Ninda, these are not good qualities. Even sometimes we may impede a devotee's progress. That is also dangerous. Just like the example of Subari Muni. And Subari Muni was in meditation, but he saw 2 fishes mating. And Garuda wanted to come and eat the fish. But he protected the fish. So he committed an offense to Garuda, who was a pure devotee. So then he fell down from the process and got engaged in material life. So when you impede the progress of the progress of a devotee, you have to be very careful. Also, in the purport, he is speaking about revenge. But Dhruva wanted to seek revenge. But revenge, do you like taking revenge on people? Because if you are like that, you want to take revenge, it just shows your weakness and how you cannot control your feelings. So we have to be careful. Revenge will take away your joy and everything that is good. Even if you're successful in your vengeance, because you'll still remain very unsatisfied and unhappy. So revenge, it's not good. But in this case, Dhruva was a child and was a pure devotee. The Lord, you don't have to, go out of your way to deal with a devotee, even if he does things like that. Unless it's like really something that you can't handle, because the Lord will take care of it. Somehow, He'll make those adjustments. Because revenge is definitely like a sign of weakness. We shouldn't be like that. Sometimes, even after a matter is tried in court and you're still not satisfied with the outcome, and then your hatred increases. So a devotee, a Vaishnava, should never be taken to court. A Vaishnava can be never judged from a legal perspective, because a Vaishnava is above all this. We should never ever do that. So So there's other examples, there's so many examples. There's Amoga Leela, there's Mother Sachi, there's so many examples of offenses and the subtleties and how what happens and the effects are so bad. But even in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about Gopal Chapala, was a person who's very rough in his speech, very talkative, very uncultured person, and wanted to harm this Gopal Chapala. But gradually, what he did was like not a very good thing. He took like paraphernalia of Durga, Kali and Chandi, and he placed it at his door. Because in Bengal, worship of Kali is very prominent, very, very prominent. If you go there, oh my God, I was there when they were doing all these things. They have a whole lot of pandals throughout the Bengal, huge setups in every way where they're having this worship. But then, Gopal Chapala did that to Srivas Thakur, who was a well-respected Vaishnav. But he wanted to reduce his prestige by bringing him down from the platform, of Vaishnavism to the platform of demigod worship or devatas. Now, bringing somebody down is not only applicable; it's applicable to us too. We may try to bring somebody down, even if he's advancing. You get it? So we may try to bring people down, so we have to be careful about that. Very careful. We don't reduce the prestige of others. If somebody is better than us, well and good. He can go back to Godhead and I can go back to Godhead. It doesn't matter. He's better than me. He'll go and I'll go also. I can learn from him. Yeah. But then, this was, he couldn't really get relief. He got leprosy and the whole, it's a long pastime, but the end, he had to beg forgiveness from Srivas Thakur. Because even Lord Chaitanya said, you will suffer for millions of years. So we have to be very, very cautious when you're dealing with devotees, and they are very special souls because there's not many people who become Vaishnavas, isn't it? So one has to be very cautious. There's so many good examples you can speak on. But we can take some questions quickly, I think. Is it okay? Some questions? Or if anybody want to say anything or comment on it or make some comments. Yeah. The people want to hear you in it's broadcast, yeah.
Hare Krishna. Could it be that subject be called karma in general?
Well, karma is action and reaction. One gets like reaction for what he does. But a devotee, see, when somebody surrenders to Krishna, a devotee is not in is not on the level of, karma is not applicable to him. But sometimes you get like token reactions. You get token reactions. And it's like that karma is kept in the hands of the Lord, and sometimes He'll give you some. It's like a test also at the same time. So when you're talking about Vaishnavas, then it's not on the category of karma. Like if a Vaishnav, Vaishnav aparad is amongst Vaishnavas. And that's why Prabhupada clearly in the purport says it's also applicable to people who are not Vaishnavas. If you heard the purport, he writes it there. So you cannot insult other people also, outside, even if you are a devotee. So karma means action and reaction. And just like it reminds me of one example of Malati and Shyam Sundar. They were like, they were good devotees, they're still good devotees, but they were involved prior to that in some drugs or something to do with drugs. and they were meant to be punished. They meant to go to jail. So, they told Prabhupada, we did something, we have to go to jail. And him, he just he followed the law. Because he's getting a reaction for what they did. That's karma. So they went to jail. While they were serving, then they went to jail. But when they were in jail, they stayed for some days, and the guy who was in charge of that place don't know why he's signing release papers for them. He's telling them, I really don't know why I'm signing this thing. Because you're meant to, for a long period you're meant to stay in prison. So there you can see like an intervention of a pure devotee. What they did was on the level of karma, but what they were, when they were in prison, they're now getting it became like a token reaction. Because they're getting released early. So there's a difference for a devotee when he surrenders, because Krishna says, when somebody surrenders to him, he frees them from all sinful reaction. Do not fear, do not worry, do not hesitate. What's the verse? Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. These verses we actually learned from Bhatta Maharaj. He would quote it like anything. I must have heard it 1,000 times from him. Janma karma chame divyamevam yo vidi tatvataha. All these verses. So when you hear from the devotees, you can easily learn these things. So that's, you can see the difference of what is karma and what is a token reaction. So there's a difference, So, but Vaishnava aparad is so deep that when you offend a Vaishnava, it's very deep. Even Krishna won't protect you. He says it there. In the purports. He won't protect you. So we have to be really cautious about it. What do you think of the subject matter? Is that okay, Sekhi Prabhu?
Yes, thank you.
You're also making nice advancement. You're protected by Tulsi Devi. So... Yeah, you'll make it. Anybody else want to say anything? Is this such a wonderful topic also? Can you say something? Okay. Ujjwala? What's the first offense? Everybody knows that one, right? What's the first offense? Oh, you're going to say something? Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment on the point of anger. How do you overcome anger? You said that you must forgive. Together with that, you have to be humble. If you're not humble, you cannot forgive. So humility and forgiveness go together.
Humility is the definition is one is not hankering for the satisfaction of being honored by others. Now the anger, it's there in the Bhagavatam, the first canto, in Bhishma Dev's passing away of Bhishma Dev. I think it's there in the purport. That's what it mentions. Because see, when you start forgiving, if you don't forgive, you'll be fighting your own mind. You'll say, hey, I should have said this, that fellow said that. You start fighting. There's a battle in your mind. And that anger increases. See, but when you forgive the person, there's no more anger. Because you forgive and you say, well, it's done. But sometimes you have to forgive the person. You may have to go through a process of trying to understand why he committed such an offense. You just don't say, well, okay, all right, I forgive him. But if you understand the offense and why he offended, I worked for the government, and my task was, it was, I would authorize payment by the millions a day, and it required a lot of insight and sharpness. But whenever somebody did something wrong, because I had to check it, I never ever marked it wrong. I gave it back to the person to think about it and just have a look at it again, and then the person looks at it again and says, oh, I made a mistake. So that correction takes place by that person himself. It's an interesting way how to correct somebody. I think the devotees have to learn that art, and I learned that from a materialist. One materialistic guy, he never did that. And so you have to even if there's something wrong with somebody, the way to do it is you raise it as a question, like how would you look at something like this? If something like this transpires, how would you look at it? You don't point that person's mistake out. It should be done in that fashion. But then what is your question again? How do you must be humble. Well, that humility takes time. Like she was talking about anarthas, maybe we are on that level. That level, what you're talking about, humble means, or the level of nishta, when you're very steady in devotional practice. That's the third level. If you're not constantly chanting the holy names, where's the humility? You get it? Because it says, one constantly chant the holy name when he's humble. We're not doing that. So you're not humble. You're still in the anartha stage. So this is on the level of nishta. So the thing is, at least theoretically we know we should forgive people. But if it's theoretically, you constantly forgive people, you forgive. Even if you don't want to forgive, you just say, you know what, I forgive the person. And then next day you'll say, well, you'll think bad things about it. But anyway, next day, again you should think, well, I forgive the person. But when you do that, like that, you'll develop that desire to forgive. That's what happens. So you develop the desire to forgive. Otherwise, it's like that. But that anger, forgiveness, is there. It's mentioned in the first canto. I can't pick it up now, but yeah, it's a good way of just forgiving. What do you think of that? So if you learn like that, so you have to improve your devotional qualities, and yeah. I was just seeing that where Rama Maharaj was placed in Samadhi, and I was thinking of, he spoke about a lot of these topics, and sometimes he would, when he was preaching, he would just be like heavy. I saw him like once in the Ratha Yatra, one Christian person had come and tried to, the way Maharaj cut this person off, that fellow was cut to ribbons in minutes. He just smashed that guy. So one day I was reminding Maharaj here, he said, I changed now. I'm a change now. I reminded him when the last time he was here. But he gave me another insight. I don't want to talk about it, but something else, yeah. so it's like that. Yeah. And we mustn't create fear in people, because that's another thing we mustn't do. Because even like Lord Chaitanya, one time, he assumed the form of Nrsingadev, assumed different forms. And then he was running down the street and people became afraid. Then he realized, no, we shouldn't make the people afraid. He stopped. Okay, we'll stop here. We won't make you afraid anymore, but thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki. This is a wonderful topic. Let me put the computer off. Have a seminar. A good thing, because you know why? Maybe we should